With the PS5, Xbox Series S and X almost upon us, you might be thinking of buying a new TV to really take advantage of their more powerful hardware. In this video, I'm going to make that purchase decision a whole lot easier, as I'm going to go over 6 great 4K HDR TVs that will be perfect for the new consoles. For a 4K TV, you ideally want as low an input lag as possible, a wide colour gamut and good peak brightness for HDR, as well as HDMI 2.1, which for the new consoles allows for potential benefits like 120Hz and variable refresh rate. First up is a budget set that should suit even the most cash-strapped gamer, the Hisense H8G, which comes in sizes 50" up to 75" and costs a relatively cheap price of $500 for the 55". For such a budget set, what you get is quite impressive. It has an extremely low input lag of only 11.7 milliseconds while in 4K HDR, and decent contrast levels with full array local dimming, which provides a pretty good picture. The two areas this TV falls short on is its peak brightness while in HDR and its viewing angles, which aren't great. Also, considering this is a budget set, it doesn't have any HDMI 2.1 ports, so it won't be able to make the most of all the benefits the new consoles offer. But if you currently have a 1080p set, you'll still be able to take advantage of the 4K resolution and HDR, which is a worthy upgrade. This particular set isn't sold in the UK, but Hisense do sell some similarly priced models like the U7QF, which are worth taking a look at. Next up is another budget set, the TCL R635, which has 3 size variants, 55", 65" and 75", with the 55" costing $50 more than the Hisense H8G at $650. Both TVs are comparable to each other, but the TCL 6 series can get a lot brighter, has a wider colour gamut and better contrast levels. That said, the TV does have worse input lag, coming in at 18 milliseconds while in 4K with HDR, so that's worth bearing in mind if you're very into competitive multiplayer games and want the lowest possible, but 18 milliseconds is still very good. While its peak brightness and contrast levels are decent, its local dimming isn't perfect with noticeable bloom. Once again, because this is a budget set, there isn't HDMI 2.1, but if you currently have a 1080p set, this is still a big leap up that you won't regret. This exact model isn't sold in the UK, there are similar TCL models, but I can't be sure how well they match up. Moving on to a mid-range set with the Sony XH90 or X900H as it's known in the US, which comes in sizes 55" to 85", with the 55" sitting at roughly £1,000 in the UK or $950 in the US. This TV is being marketed by Sony as PS5 ready, which essentially means it has all the aspects you'll need to take advantage of the console, such as HDMI 2.1, along with touting other little integrations like being able to effortlessly turn on both the console and TV together with the DualSense. Its input lag while playing in 4K HDR at 60Hz is pretty low at 15.2 milliseconds, has great black uniformity, contrast levels, and supports full array local dimming. Its peak brightness is decent, making it good for HDR, although there are other options that perform better. Despite being labelled as PS5 ready, this is also a great TV for the Xbox Series S or X. It is worth noting, however, that the HDMI 2.1 features aren't yet added. Sony have said they'll be included in a future firmware update, which will hopefully be soon. Up next is a TV from Samsung, the Q80T, which comes in sizes 49" to 85" and costs roughly £1,100 or $1,300 for the 55" model. While in 4K HDR at 60Hz, it has an input lag of just 9.7 milliseconds, although that does increase to 15.7 milliseconds with variable refresh rate. Where the Q80T outperforms the Sony XH90 is that it can get much brighter, making for better HDR, has wider viewing angles and handles screen reflections considerably better. However, the XH90 does have a greater contrast ratio and superior local dimming. There is one HDMI 2.1 port, so you are future-proof for the new consoles, and unlike the Sony set, the HDMI 2.1 features are already implemented, so no need to wait for a firmware update. The second from last TV is Samsung's flagship QLED, the next model up, the Q90T. This TV ranges in sizes from 55" to 85", with the 55" costing around £1,300 or $1,500. While not comparable to an OLED, its contrast levels and local dimming are really great, and it's a fairly big step up from the Q80T. It can also get much brighter than that model, making for an overall better HDR presentation. When playing at 4K HDR at 60Hz, its input lag is impressively low at 10.2 milliseconds, which makes it absolutely perfect for fast-paced multiplayer games, although that number does rise a little to 15 milliseconds with variable refresh rate. As with the last few entries, it features one HDMI 2.1 port, making it future ready for the new consoles. While it's slightly more expensive than the Q80T, if you can afford the extra few hundred, it provides an incredible picture that's really only trumped by the next on this list. That leads me to the last entry, which is the LG C10, arguably the best 4K TV for the new consoles at the moment. The LG C10 comes in sizes ranging from 48 inch up to 77 inch, with the 55 inch costing roughly £1,600 or $1,600. Being an OLED TV, it has perfect black levels and a near infinite contrast ratio, which makes it easily stand above the others on this list in terms of image quality. When in 4K HDR at 60Hz, the input lag is incredibly low at 13.5 milliseconds, and is even lower at 11.1 milliseconds with variable refresh rate. Additionally, this is one of the few TVs that has more than one HDMI 2.1 port, so if you plan on buying both a PS5 and Xbox Series S or X, you won't need to constantly switch the cables around each time you play one or the other to get those extra 2.1 benefits. But there is one big caveat that might make you want to buy the Samsung Q90T instead, is that because it's an OLED TV, there is a risk of permanent burn-in. The risk is relatively low, but if you play the same game all the time for hours on end with static UI elements, there is a possibility they may end up sticking. If the C10 is a little out of your price range, you can always opt for the B10, which is a little worse, but costs less. That's it for this video. If you enjoyed it, be sure to leave a like, subscribe and hit the bell icon for a notification each time I upload new content. Thanks for watching, and I'll speak to you in the next video.